Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bhakti Fundamentals. In today's session, we explore the beautiful analogy of the lotus flower. Krishna himself uses the example of the lotus in the Gita when describing how we can be in the world but not of it, by spiritualizing our daily lives simply through a shift in our consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 5, verse 10, Krishna declares, "Those who perform their duty without attachment, surrendering the results of their activities unto the Supreme Lord, are unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water." Now, before discussing this verse itself, it's helpful to take a look at what is known as the lotus effect. In 1977, scientists explained the lotus effect, or the self-cleaning properties of lotus leaves. And this phenomenon occurs because lotus leaves are ultra-hydrophobic, meaning that they naturally repel water. Their nanoscopic surface structure prevents water droplets from adhering to their leaves, causing the water droplets to bead up and roll right off, carrying away dirt in the process. The result? A very efficient system of purification. The water droplets run right off the lotus leaf, and as they do, the water droplets clean the lotus leaves. Now, as we just read in the Bhagavad Gita, long before scientists discovered and described the lotus effect, Krishna, the Supreme, had already explained it to Arjuna. But unlike the researchers of the 1970s, Krishna didn't just describe the phenomenon, he revealed its deeper practical application for our lives. After all, Krishna is the creator and designer of the lotus. If any analogy is going to stand the test of time, his certainly will. So, in our verse today, Krishna says that we can be lotus-like by being in the world, but not of it. We still have to live in the world, but we can purify our existence and cleanse our consciousness, not unlike how the lotus flower cleans itself. How? This is where the lotus analogy is really perfect. The very same actions that previously bound us to this material world liberate us when they are dovetailed in Krishna's service. We learn in the Gita that when we offer the results of our activities to Krishna, the material reactions that otherwise would have resulted from our actions run right off of us, like the water on the lotus, and those same actions, now producing spiritual results instead of material karmic results, clean or purify our consciousness. This is what Krishna means when he says that we will be unaffected by sinful action. The lotus does not reject the water, it lives in it and uses the water to clean itself. Similarly, we can use the material world to clean ourselves. We don't need to reject the world, we simply need to engage everything in our lives in Krishna's service to cleanse our consciousness. What a perfect setup by Krishna. The lotus, like ourselves, is still constantly in contact with water, or the material world, but it rises above the water line and reveals its true beauty above the water, as we can in spiritual life. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna urges us to perform our respective duties in the world, whether it's caring for our families, going to work, maintaining our homes, etc., but with a crucial shift in consciousness, to consciously dedicate those activities to Krishna and offer the results of our activities to him. This is what it means to perform yoga, to yoke or connect our activities, indeed our whole lives, to Krishna. He is, after all, the very source of our ability to act in this world. And in this way, even our ordinary daily responsibilities, working, cooking, taking care of our families, are transformed into spiritually significant actions of loving devotion to Krishna. This fills our lives with a deep sense of meaning, rendering them spiritually full and beautiful. Thus, if we follow Krishna's advice in this regard, then spiritual life, or Bhakti Yoga, is the lotus effect in our lives. Just as the lotus remains untouched by water, we too remain unaffected by material entanglement when we engage in Krishna's devotional service. And Krishna himself helps us in this process. He resides within our hearts as Paramatma, our eternal best friend who always wants the best for us. And the beauty of Bhakti Yoga is that we can start as small as we like, whether it's chanting one round of the Maha Mantra a day, or spending 15 minutes reading the Bhagavad Gita a night, or simply offering our vegetarian meals to Krishna before consuming them ourselves. Krishna sees even the smallest effort we make to connect with him. And in return, he helps us deepen that connection, gradually guiding and inspiring us to connect more and more of our lives to him. Note that the spiritual lotus effect just requires a change of consciousness. Sure, we may be adding some spiritual activities to our day, like chanting or reading the Gita, but most of the time, we're just shifting our consciousness around the activities that we are already carrying out on a daily basis. The key difference is in our motivation. Instead of acting for ourselves, we are acting for the Supreme. And in doing so, we are converting otherwise material activities into spiritual devotional service. This is known as the spiritual art of dovetailing. And the spiritual rewards of dovetailing our lives to Krishna are significant. For the very same actions that once bound us to the material world now become the means for our making spiritual advancement, and the means by which we're ultimately liberated from this material world. So this week, try applying the lotus effect in your own life and see how it transforms your daily experiences. Before eating a meal, take a moment to offer your vegetarian meal to the Supreme, to Krishna, acknowledging that everything ultimately comes from him. At the end of the day, reflect on your activities and mentally offer the results of those activities to Krishna, recognizing that Krishna is the source of our talents and our ability to act. By making these simple shifts in our consciousness, we can begin to cultivate a spiritually conscious life, one that is pure, blissful, and deeply fulfilling. Just like the lotus flower, we can rise above material entanglements while remaining fully engaged in the world, making our lives not only meaningful but truly beautiful. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, whose purports we read from in the Bhagavad Gita, would often refer to the Bhakti Yoga system as sublime. And he would further conclude that our lives will become sublime if we practice bhakti. What does the word sublime actually mean? In consulting the dictionary, we find a few meanings of the word sublime, such as lofty, grand, or exalted in thought, expression, or manner, of outstanding spiritual, intellectual, or moral worth, and tending to inspire awe, usually because of an elevated quality like beauty, nobility, or grandeur. Now, you may recall that the writers of the Romantic era viewed nature as sublime, a source of awe and reverence that evoked a deep, almost ineffable emotional understanding. It was something that had to be experienced rather than explained. Of course, we learn in the Gita that material nature is but an energy of the Supreme, just a spark of the splendor of the Supreme. The Romantic poets did not realize that they were actually appreciating the artistic touch of the Supreme in nature. And through the practice of Bhakti Yoga, our own lives can attain a sublime beauty far beyond what the romantic poets envisioned. By just making a subtle shift in our consciousness, we can transform matter into spirit, thereby infusing our daily lives with deeply fulfilling spiritual purpose. In this way, our whole lives become like a beautiful lotus flower that we offer up to Krishna in a spirit of loving devotion. And this is Bhakti. This is the heart of Bhakti Yoga. So that's all we have for today. We really just wanted to highlight this one brilliant analogy that Krishna provides us with in the Bhagavad Gita for how we can spiritually harmonize our lives. Let us know what you think of his lotus analogy, and more importantly, try to see how you can be like the lotus this week, being in the material world but rising above the material waterline and maintaining spiritual consciousness throughout each day. As always, let us know if you have any questions on how to do this, and let us know how the exercise goes for you. You can contact us anytime at bhaktifundamentals@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, thank you for listening today, and we'll see you next time on Bhakti Fundamentals.